Powered by Riverside.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Tiffany Lawrence. I'm the host of The Wealthy Educator. I am here today to talk about college, actually. I am a mom of a high schooler, and we are planning for our college adventure. And so I thought today that I would talk about that with you all because we recently had some college visit tours that were interesting. So, the first thing I want to talk about is why me planning for college for my daughter is super important to me. I am, she is in the 10th grade, and I, as you may have heard in my previous posts, have had $198,000 in student loan debt. And one of my goals because of that is to help my daughter go to school debt free. Now, for me, I see that as it could mean a lot of different things. Of course, it could mean she's getting scholarships. It could mean that I'm paying for some. It could mean that she's working. My main goal is any means necessary. I want her to go to school and graduate debt free. And so, because of that, I have to plan for that, correct? And so, just like everybody else, I have had things that happen in life that prevented me from saving the way that I intended to. But now that the rubber has hit the road and I'm a little bit closer, a couple of years ago, I started trying to put some things in place to help me pay for my daughter to go to school so that way she could understand and understand how valuable it was, but also how important it was to graduate without that debt load on her back. So let me tell you some of the things that her father and I did. So one thing we did is we did start a 529 a few years ago. We did not start when she was a baby. So we will not have enough in the 529 to cover all of her college costs, but we definitely save something every month and have been for a couple of years. And so we will have some money. I estimate that we'll have about a year's worth of tuition saved in our 529 account for our daughter. Another thing with the 529 that I'm planning to do is to continue putting money in the 529 throughout her college career. And so, for those who don't know, a 529 is a college savings account, and it is a place where you can save for your child's college. And it helps offset the cost because often, for instance, I'm in the state of Georgia, there is a tax credit that you get in Georgia up to a certain dollar amount. It ends up being about $388 a month that you can kind of get a tax credit for every dollar that you put inside of your child's 529 account. Now, you don't get a tax credit on the federal level, but it has definitely been helpful for me on the state level because when I filed taxes, even though I have had to, like, let's say I had to pay on the federal side, but because I was getting such a credit on the state side, it kind of balanced out because the refund I got from the state pretty much took care of what I had to pay on the federal side. And so I am planning to use the 529 to help her go to school. There are other things that you can use the 529 for. Like, let's say your child, if you put money in the account and your child just isn't, they don't like college. That's not them. That's not their it. And that's okay. So you are free to give 529s to family members. You also can pay up to about $10,000 worth of your student loan debt with the 529. During the Trump administration, he made a rule where you can pay for some private school tuition with your 529, and that would have been super helpful with me because my daughter did go to private school for elementary and middle school, and so in some of middle school, and so I wish that was available, but she was kind of headed out to public school by that time, before that really became meaningful for us. But if I had that option, it really been helpful. And when people hear me say private school, they just automatically think that, oh my God, how did you pay for private school? There must have been so much money. Believe it or not, we got scholarships to private schools. So we did pay something, but the majority of her tuition was a scholarship. And so that is something that I try to tell people: don't automatically count out private school, because there are private schools that may want somebody like your child to go to their school. I've seen people get academic, regular scholarships. I've seen people get it because of athletic abilities. So it can be very different than what you think, and it may be possible. Also, if your child is on a IEP, which means that they're special needs, often in the state of Georgia, if your child has been on an IEP for at least a year, the state has to give you tuition support for your child to go to a private school. And so there are so many different options available that you should look into. That might be another episode as to why we chose the private school route when she was younger, because it is definitely a very interesting story. So I'll save that one for another episode. So that's my first thing, is the 529 is going to pay for part of it. Also, I often talk to people about being very strategic about my career planning. I am strategic in how I move through my career and the job choices that I make. And so, one way that I have thought about is making sure that, one, my expenses are low enough so that I can live on less, and that I have a gap in my income so that I can also cash flow a part of her college. So right now, I am already planning on how much money I am planning to cash flow out of my regular income to help assist her with her college tuition. And I plan to maintain that lifestyle level so that I can continue that for at least the first 4 years, and possibly grad school, because the career that she wants to go in does require a grad school education. So that's one way. So the first way is the 529. The second way is being strategic with your income. And then, of course, I believe that your children should have some skin in the game. And so I am not against a child working in college. And so I am thinking that she may do some kind of work study. I've also encouraged her to maybe come up with her own side gig. So when I was in college, I love to bake. I've always loved to bake since I was probably about 7 years old. I made cakes for people in high school. It's actually how I paid, just kind of getting side money. But when I went to college, I made cakes for local restaurants, and I dropped them off once a week, and they paid me. And I used that money to pay all of my utility bills and to help me live off campus, because when I went to school, my parents were like, we're not paying for you to get an apartment. And so the deal that we made was they would pay what they were already paying when I stayed on campus, and I paid the difference with the proceeds from selling my cakes. And so I don't necessarily care what my daughter does as far as how she earns money, as long as it's legal, right? But I have said to her, she needs to figure out what her side hustle is going to be. It could be braiding hair, it could be eyelashes, it could be nails, it could be tutoring. Like if your child is good at a particular subject, my child has a particular skill set with with the ability to teach a very kind of expensive tutoring technique with teaching kids how to read. And so recently we actually discussed her tutoring younger students with the method that she learned when she was younger that helped her learn how to read, because a tutor that has that ability for the skill set that she has is called Orton Gillingham. They make upward of $75 an hour. And so she wouldn't necessarily have to be certified as an Orton Gillingham tutor, but because she's been doing it all of her life, she's quite good at it. So that's a way that she could make extra money, because some parents obviously can't afford to pay $75 an hour, and she would be a lot cheaper for that same skill set that's really valuable to students. And so having that income is one option, because I do believe they should have some skin in the game. And then the other thing, the last part of our plan to cover college is for my daughter to get scholarships. Now, some people will say, oh, well, they have to be super smart and this and that. Well, first, all scholarships don't require high GPAs. There are so many scholarship opportunities out there that people do not take advantage of. But a big part of that is you have to put the time and the effort in to get the scholarships. Scholarships start, you can start looking early. Even if you can't apply for the scholarship just yet, you can start creating a database. We have actually an Excel sheet in my house where we are tracking scholarships that when she hits junior and senior year, at that time of the year that scholarship application was due, we already making a list of scholarships that we're going to apply to. And so that way, by the time we get to junior, and senior year, we have a massive list of scholarships that we're going to apply to. On top of which, there are a lot of free scholarship services that you can apply to as well. There are often scholarships left on the table just because people did not take the time. Now, one of the things related to that is I've actually set my daughter down in the 8th grade and I said, we will not have enough money to pay for you to go to college in your 529. My daughter knows that already before she goes to high school. It is going to be important for you to take full advantage of the opportunities that you have in high school, the skill sets that you learn, the classes that you take. We need for you to go in there with your A game because it is your responsibility to earn a set amount of scholarships so that you want to go to school. And so that has been something that my daughter has known before she stepped foot into her high school building, because she knew that she had to do her part, because I do not think it is a parent's sole responsibility to do it all. And I think when a child has to take ownership of that, it gives the value and they will value it differently in the long run. And so that is one thing that my daughter knows. And so she does make good grades. She knows how important that is. And my role in that is, one, to help her learn what she's good at, learn what she cares about, to expose her to things. So that way she's planning her high school career in a way that gets her to her end goal. And so with that, she knows she has to spend time with scholarships. She also knows that the summer before senior year, in part of her time will be sitting down, writing college essays, filling out scholarship applications, so that we're prepared to put those applications in so she can get those scholarships by the time she graduates. And so the 529 planning, the income strategically for myself so that I have the gap in my income to help pay for school, her putting some skin in the game and having her own income, and also her putting her brain into those scholarship applications is how we're going to pay for college and how we're going to make sure that she graduates college debt free. And so those are the things that we're doing on how we're going to pay for it. So some other things that I wanted to mention was what traditionally some people are calling like college hacking, and things that you do to help prepare that also helps. So the first thing I want to talk about is earning college credits in high school. My daughter, she's in AP classes. And we have been strategic about our AP classes. There are charts out there where colleges will tell you what AP classes and what AP scores will count as college credit. There are also so what I have told her is I want to take classes that are going to be valuable to our future. So if it's related to the major she's interested in or some core class works, those are the classes that we want to take. We don't necessarily want to take what I consider to be frivolous classes. And so we literally pull out the chart, and that's how we plan her schedule each year when they come to us. Now, something I should mention about AP classes is that, especially as we've gone on some college visits, every school is not going to take all AP classes, and every school is not going to take, a lot of them have a maximum number of AP classes they're going to take. But one thing I do want to mention is that they're still valuable to take, because some schools want to know how much rigor that your child put into their high school career. They don't want to just assume that, they want to see in their transcript that they really are, bringing it to school. The other thing you have is dual enrollment. So we are going to leverage that. I actually have a young lady who used to work for me, and her daughter did dual enrollment from the 10th grade. And she actually graduated with enough credits for her associate's degree. She got a full track scholarship. Then she went to college on that track scholarship. She started, I think, as like a sophomore or junior. She graduated, but because she didn't need those first 2 years of credits, they paid for her to get her master's degree free of charge with her track scholarship. So she graduated, master's degree, free of charge, all because she focused on dual enrollment when she was in undergrad. And then now she's actually in a doctoral program. So I'm so proud of her. And so that is how you can use those things to help you plan for college. You also have internships to get experience so you can qualify for different scholarships and programs. There are some colleges that have special programs. Clemson has a program where you go 2 summers. You have to go the summer of your 10th grade year. You have to, that's the summer after the 10th grade year. And in that summer, if you get into this program, you go 2 years in a row, you qualify for a scholarship to Clemson. And so that's just one of many programs that are available out there. So there are so many different options for planning for college. And then, of course, the SAT and ACT, planning for that, prepping for that properly, taking some test prep classes. When I was in school, I actually was able to take a free SAT prep class. And that class was after the first time I took it, but before, and I took it the second time, and my score rose over 100 points because of it. I ended up graduating top 10% of my class, high SAT score, and I got a scholarship to a decent university. And so I want to make sure that you understand like all those things play a role. But I also want to talk about some scholarships don't require those high scores. And so it's possible in other ways. I actually give a scholarship out to special needs students because that's something dear to my heart. And I do not require a GPA. You have to be a member of my church because my church gave me a scholarship all 4 years. And so I felt like this was a way for me to give back is I provide a scholarship to students as well. And so all I really want you to do is tell something about your story, because what I have learned is that just because a child has special needs doesn't mean they're not bright, that they're not smart, that they're not going to be successful. And I want to make sure that they're not overlooked just because they have a learning disability. And so those are the things that I have been doing. And then the second part of that is putting some effort into exposing your child to things related to college. Now, everybody might not be able to do what I'm doing. So we started college tours the fall of her sophomore year. And we literally sat down and said, okay, where do you think you want to go? What kind of city do you want to live in? What are you interested in major wise? And we wrote down all the schools that she kind of thought she was interested in. Of course, TikTok influence. And we have been to the majority of her schools, except for the ones in New York. And I think maybe Connecticut is where she wanted to go. And so there are a few schools that we have gone to that we have been super impressed with. But the beauty of going to these schools is that we got to ask the questions like, well, how important are AP classes? And that's why I know what I know. Dual enrollment. Do you accept all the dual enrollment credits? Because depending on where you go to school, like if you go to dual enrollment in the state of Georgia, like how we are, and then you want to go to another state, they may not accept those dual enrollment credits. But if you grew up in North Carolina has a great scholarship program and a great dual enrollment program. So all of their high school students, if they go dual enrollment, they go to those universities, it all counts. And so those are things you think about. So you kind of want to balance and have a clear understanding so you're making good decisions and choices. Then we have visited state schools because in the state of Georgia, we have a program called the Hope Scholarship and the Zell Miller Scholarship. And these are all programs that when kids graduate with good grades in the state of Georgia, they go to school for free. And that is super awesome. It's a great opportunity. And so my daughter also has been told, because that opportunity is available to her because she has good grades, right? Is that if she does not choose to go to a state school, part of her scholarship plan is coming up with the difference for going out of state. That's how she has her skin in the game. I have people that say, "Oh, Tiffany, that's not right. That's wrong. There's too much pressure on her." Well, why? When she can stay in the state of Georgia, go to school for free based off her grades and academics, why would I not hold her accountable for saying, okay, mommy, I want to go somewhere different. And I said, okay, I'll help support you. I'm still going to help you go to school, i.e., gap in my income, right? i.e., 529 plan. But if you want to go out of state where it's going to cost me double to send you to school, then you need to put some skin in the game. And those scholarships need to reflect that. And so that is me having, real life conversations with her so that she knows that all these decisions that we make matter. And so your kid might say, well, wait a minute, mommy, if you're willing to help me do that, maybe I'll stay in the state and maybe you help me get a car. So however your child, for my daughter, she values going out of state. She has a big dream going to a big city, even though we live in a big city. So that's what she wants to do. So I'm going to support her in that. But I'm also going to let her know that we do need to do different things to make sure that we're prepared to make that choice, because mommy's not signing the student loan document and neither are you. And so that means that we have to plan how we're going to handle that. And we started planning that in the 8th grade. And it hasn't really wavered for her. The only thing that has changed is a little bit about her major. She still wants to be a science person, but it started in science. It's just morphed into something a little bit more unique and specific. And so as they grow and you expose them to those things, that's super important for helping your child plan for college. And so that was what I wanted to talk about today, is college planning, how I'm planning, and maybe give some people some ideas for themselves. The last part of that is I wanted to remind everybody about all the different student loan programs that are kind of changing out there. I work in education, and most of you work in education. So you have the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. And I really wanted to talk about this today because on April 30th, 2024, is the deadline for you to consolidate your loans if you're going to apply for public service loan forgiveness, and your counts for your payments increase according to the loans that you have. So for instance, I have been in education for many, many years. I have some loans that have 95 payment count, and I have some loans that have 120 payment counts. And for those of you who are not in education, if you work for a school district, we can get something called public loan service forgiveness, where if we pay on our loans, 120 payments is really equivalent of 10 years. So if we pay on our student loans for 10 years under certain repayment plans, our student loans, whatever's left after that, gets forgiven. Well, some of my loans have 95 payments and some of them have 110 payments. Well, if I consolidate, and this is a very simplified version, so please go to the studentaid.gov website to get like full details and ask questions. Call the 1-800 number. I am not your financial advisor. I'm just offering options. So when you combine the loans, because of this, with everything that happened with COVID and the Biden administration making new rule changes, they are allowing you to consolidate and increase your loan payment count for the one that was 95 to mirror the one that was 110 payments, right? That's like a year worth of payments, more than that, because it's more than 12 payments. It's more than a year worth of payments that you're going to cut off my loan over here that's at 95 count. And so now that gets me closer to loan forgiveness, which means I get closer to not having any student loan debt. And then to make it better is, if the loan over here was closer to 120 payments, which is the amount you have to pay, now you take this one to 120 payments, which means once they consolidate, they're going to forgive 100% of your student loans. So I wanted to remind everybody, April 30th, 2024, how important it is for you to be in tune and in sync with your student loans. I thought that I had it all worked out, but I didn't realize that they were going to lump all of those loans in together. I was leaving mine alone because I'm going to get forgiven anyway, and I was just kind of paying my bill, kind of going through the motions. And I have gotten some loans forgiven because I have undergrad and graduate school loans. But when I heard this news and realized that it was only 2 weeks ago, I filled my paper out the same night that I learned it and submitted it to my HR department so I can get verification for my years. And also note, do not submit your verification before you consolidate your loans, because if your count goes up, it's going to it's almost like once they realize you paid enough payments, they're going to just wipe your loans clean, which means you won't get the benefit of them raising the count for the other student loan, if that makes sense. And so I want to make sure, but that's why I say you need to call the 1-800 number, ask for clarity, ask questions, read articles. But I wanted to remind everybody, because if an educator sleeps on the opportunities that have been available since COVID related to student loans, you are really sleeping on something serious. We got payment pauses. We got counts for payments that, like, if you paid 15 days late before COVID, they didn't count that as part of your 120. During COVID, they counted all of that. And they even have a program now called the buyout program, where you can almost like buy back some of the time. So let's say you had some years where you didn't pay, but you technically were still an educator. They're going to do the math of what you would have paid, and they're going to give you 90 days to pay that amount, and they're going to count all of that time. And so there's so many options out there for you to get out of student loan debt as an educator. I don't know about everybody else, but I will tell you that it has been amazing. And the person that actually put me onto this and kind of re-explained it to me, because I thought I understood and I really didn't, was Justin Garrett. He has been a guest on the Financially Independent Teachers podcast. And he does financial planning for educators. And so he was just amazing, just sharing his knowledge with me. And so I wanted to make sure that I shared it with you, because if we sleep on this, it is a big mistake. And so I wanted to make sure that I brought that to you guys today. And so I am so grateful for everybody tuning in. I'm so grateful. I got a few more followers after my last podcast post. And so I'm so excited to be doing this and providing this service to people. If you have any questions or want to reach out, definitely visit my webpage, wealthyeducator.com. I am so excited. Thank you so much for tuning in today. See you next time.
Powered by Riverside.